Then we can stretch back down. Have a seat and we'll go ahead. Good. I had also something prepared here concerning Islam, but I think I will leave it because Osama did a great job there. First, I want to talk a little bit about Stand Up America Now and our purpose in what we are doing around the nation. We are trying to get Americans to stand up. As I hope to point out tonight, our nation is in a terrible fix, in a terrible situation. What y'all? Our nation is in a terrible shape. And I'm not so sure that we in America realize what kind of shape we're in. See, I've lived overseas for 30 years. I've been in 25 or more different countries. I speak 2 languages fluently, which for Americans is quite a bit. And I think a little bit of what has happened to us, I think we have gotten off path, but we've gotten off path very slowly. And we don't even notice it. I don't know if you all know the story. If you go to church a lot, probably every preacher uses this story about the frog in water. And I think that's what's happened to us in America. And we travel America, and as we talk to pastors, we find it very, very difficult to convince people because no one really sees it. Because everybody to a certain degree is like that frog in water. We don't really realize that we are off track. We don't really realize, even as Wayne talked a lot about the scriptures and about the church. See, we don't really realize that actually the churches have become very, very lukewarm. That we are actually in a desperate situation. We don't realize that as a nation. What has been going on for many, many years. I'll talk about that later. And one of our purposes at Stand Up America Now is to try to bring Americans to that awareness and try to get them motivated to stand up, to speak out. See, we are losing our nation, and unless we actually really do something, we are going to lose it. And I realize as an Americans, we are a very proud nation, and of course we should be. I am still very convinced that we are the best nation in the world. But at the same time, if we do not stand up, if we do not do something, we will actually lose our nation. It will not be the first time. We've all been to school. We've all studied history. It will not be the first time that a great nation was at one time very great and lost its greatness. It would not be unusual. It would not be the first time. It has happened many, many times. So we encourage Americans to stand up, to speak out, to exercise our First Amendment rights. Thomas Jefferson said that people have 2 enemies, criminals and government. So he said, let us tie down the second with the chains of the Constitution, so the second does not become the legalized version of the first. He also said that when injustice becomes law, and we have that. Well, we have that in America. A very good example of that, we will get to that a little bit later, but a very good example of that is, of course, abortion. Thomas Jefferson said, when injustice becomes law, resistance becomes mandatory. And so, what we have forgotten to resist. We have lost the will to resist. We have gotten complacent. We have gotten lazy. In other words, we have become so lazy that restaurants invented the drive-through. So that we actually don't even have to get out of our cars in order to eat. We have become so lazy that an event that is important and is important to Americans and is important to people in this area, the St. Louis Cardinals being in the World Series, it is so important that churches will cancel their church services because we call it a World Series, but I mean, it's a baseball game. I played baseball. My father played professional baseball. I played baseball for the college. Baseball is a great sport, but it's still baseball. It's still just baseball. It's still just a sport. It's just guys throwing, hitting the ball, and running around. It's not God. It's not salvation. It's not even the Constitution. It happens to just be a sport that we sort of took and, I guess, modified from the English, and now we have baseball. It's not worth canceling a church service for. It's not worth missing a particular event for. It is actually just baseball. So tonight I'm going to skip my Islam information, and I want to talk to you, as I said, about the moral, spiritual, and then we will come to the economical situation that we have. See, one thing that you can depend on, and that is one of the reasons that we are not extremely popular, is because we will tell you actually the truth. You will definitely, you possibly have not liked what you have already heard, but when I get done tonight, you really will not like it. We don't sugarcoat it. We're not going to give you the sugar-coated gospel quote Christian version. Everything is going to be okay. Good if you're saved, and when you die and go to heaven, everything is going to be okay. But right here, right now, everything is not going to be okay. In other words, we are in such a bad condition, it may not be possible to fix it. Just to give you a few examples before we even get to the financial issues. Our moral condition as a nation. We have become a nation basically without values and without limitations. We will get to that also a little bit later because we have actually thrown the limitations out. See, any time you throw the Bible out, or whether you like the Bible or don't like the Bible, whether you're Christian or not Christian, anytime you throw out the rule book, the book that guides us, anytime you throw out the book of salvation or morals, anytime you begin to do that, then of course you lose limitations. Nothing is off guard anymore. Nothing is forbidden. And you begin to lose those limitations, and as you do that, then of course the standard of a country, the standard of a city will begin to lower. And we see that in our society. We see that standard, premarital sex, people living together, the growth of abortion, touch on here in a minute, teenage pregnancy. We see all of those things that have grown rampant, and they have actually, to a certain degree, not only become acceptable, or not only become tolerated, they have to a certain degree even become acceptable. We have right now in our moral condition, we have 775,000, almost 800,000. This is the condition that we are in. Probably not Cape Girardeau. That could be, but our nation. There's 775,000, almost 800,000 teenage pregnancies, not per decade, not like in this century. 775,000, 800,000 in 1 year. 800,000. That means there are 800,000 girls between the ages of 15 and 19. Most of those pregnancies are unwanted. Most of those people do not finish high school. Most of them do not go on to college. So what happens to them? They don't have a husband because of course we no longer take responsibility. We don't take responsibility for our actions. So of course we don't, as they say, man up and get married. and raise a family, to do the right and honorable thing, those things are no longer required. Those things are no longer demanded. They are no longer expected. So what happens? The girl gets her money from the taxpayers, from the welfare institutions. Plus she probably maybe has another kid. $775,000. Most of them, as I said, do not finish high school, they do not finish college, they do not have a career, or they basically do not have a life. Our divorce rate is 50%. 50% or higher. Because we are there are probably many factors, but because we are just part of the throwaway society. We are part of the bigger and the better and the fatter hamburger. We are part of the double Whopper and the quadruple Wendy's, and we're part of the bigger and the better deal. We're not into commitment. We're not into sacrifice. We're not into a give and take. We're into my way and my way alone. We are no longer into commitment. I mean, how many people are committed? They're not committed to their job. They're not committed to their church. They're not committed to one another. How many people are committed? We have 50%. We're 50%. And that is because we have partly thrown out God, we've thrown out the Bible, we've thrown out the standard, we've thrown out morality. We have become, actually, a very, very self-centered, selfish nation. So that is actually what we have become. Dr. Tom Ellis, who is the chairman of the Southern Baptist Convention Council of the Family, the study that he did says that the family who goes to church has a faith in God, a faith in the Bible. They go to church. They have had counseling before marriage. He says the divorce rate sounds a little bit impossible, but even if it's anywhere close to this, we need to return to God. Our nation needs to return to God. We need to return to the Bible, and we need to stand up. See, the only reason that things don't happen is because we do not stand up. Things do not happen because they are right or wrong. I think most of us would agree that abortion is wrong, but it's legal. I think most of us would have a problem concerning the Bible, let's say, with the acceptance or of it being right, homosexuality. I believe the Bible is fairly clear concerning that matter. But it has become widely accepted, not because it is right, but it's because people stood up. It's because people said something. You see that the people that do this, 1 in 39,000 get divorced. That sounds pretty high. But I've been in the ministry 30 years. And in 30 years pastoring, I can confirm that to a certain degree. I think in the 30 years that I pastored, I saw 2 divorces. We have a nation that is out of control. We have a government out of control. We have a nation and a people. We are the most obese nation in the world. In the world. We are addicted to food, to television, to drugs. We are the most obese nation in the world. That is terrible. 34% of the adults are obese. I'm not talking about a little bit overweight, or I'm not talking about being Mr. Perfect or Mr. Skinny, but I'm talking about obese. 31% of the kids, of course. Well, see, as we are no longer an example, then what's everybody else going to do? What was the old saying? Do as I say and not as I do. Do as I say and not as I do just simply does not work. I mean, we're a nation out of control. Our government is out of control. Our government does not need more money, because if our government had more money, they would just simply spend more money. Our spiritual decay. As we have removed, as I said, the Bible, then we have a total breakdown between right and wrong. We have no longer, and I don't know if we teach our kids anymore. I mean, heaven forbid if you should ever talk about disciplining kids. I won't get into that. But we don't teach. We don't have clear right and wrongs anymore. When I was a child, of course, as you probably know, I grew up, was born here, raised here in Cape Girardeau. We had clear right and wrong. I mean, my dad called me in and he said, "This is what you do and this is what you don't do. You don't do this, you don't do this, you don't do this, you don't do this, this is what you don't do." Back then they used to spank you at school. He said, "You get a spanking at school, you come home, you get another one." I mean, there was clear lines of right and wrong. But we've lost those lines because, of course, we've thrown away the instructions. I mean, if you don't have the instruction book, then of course you just put it together the best you can, and you put it together the way you think it should be put together. And see, we as human beings, we're usually wrong. We just think we're smart. We think we know how to do it. And everybody thinks the next generation will do it better. No, they won't. They won't do it better without the rule book. We'll have removed the Bible from the schools a long time ago. I think they want to remove God from the Pledge of Allegiance because it might offend somebody. That's like the new religion, offending people. We remove the Ten Commandments from the courthouse. I mean, well, what are the Ten Commandments? I mean, the Ten Commandments could hardly even be considered religious. I mean, those are just plain old, good old things to live by. I mean, thou shalt not steal, and commit adultery, and honor father and mother. I mean, it's not like, like we're not singing worship songs or something, or, I mean, it's just a good way to live. Just a good thing to go by. But see, all of these things are done not because they're right. Not because now all of a sudden all these Bible people were wrong and all these other people are right. These things are done because we do nothing. Because we don't stand up. We don't do anything. We would rather sit at home on Sunday night and maybe see what happens to the Cardinals than come out and do something. And if the Cardinals are not an excuse, something else will be. So removing the Bible hasn't made our nation better. Our teenage suicide rate is up 200%. I mean, that ain't the craziest thing in the world, huh? Teenage suicide. I mean, well, what is that? I mean, teenagers, they shouldn't be committing no suicide. That's craziness. They're just starting off. They've got their whole life ahead of them. They can do anything they want to. You live in America. You can do anything you want to, be anything you want to be. Just do it. So removing God, removing the Bible, that hasn't helped our nation any. See, if our nation was better by removing the Bible, yeah, good. Let's remove the Bible. I mean, if it works, it works. What's there to argue about? But if it don't work, it don't work. And see, it's just not working. And people keep making the same mistakes because we don't stand up. In 2006, we had 7 million people in prison. My best friend spent his whole life in prison. 7 million people in prison. 7 million in prison, probation, or on parole was the highest amount in the world. So I think throwing the Bible out didn't really help us a whole lot, huh? Didn't do us a lot of good. See, if we don't stand up, what's going to happen to us is everybody else is making the decisions for us. And see, they're making bad decisions. Because as hard as it may be for us to believe, there are people who hate America. There are people who do not want America to prosper. There are people who run America who do not want America to prosper. They're interested in what is called perhaps a one world type of government. And of course, you could never do that. You can never sell that to an American unless you can bring America down. Our economical system, the conditions of our economy. Now here I want us to pay close attention. I'm going to give you a lot of figures. These are all going to be facts. Our economy is in very bad condition. In other words, it's very, very bad condition. It's almost like a person. You know, you can get sick and then you can get sick. And if you get sick, you probably will recover, more than likely. But sooner or later you won't. Either you're just too old and everybody's got to die, or sooner or later you let it go too long. So sooner or later, just too many things are gone, eat up, disappeared, destroyed. It's just not going to recover. It's just not going to happen. And so you see, the politicians right now, it doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't really make a whole lot of difference whether they're Republican, Democrat, or Tea Party. They're actually not telling us the truth. They're not telling us the actual solution. They're not telling us the condition that we are actually in. The only thing that's going to fix this, is the truth. The first truth we're going to start out with tonight is, number one, we elected the wrong person. Actually, as a preacher for 30 years, actually the thing that we should do, the thing that fixes everything, is repentance. But we live in the modern age of non-repentance. What happened? Actually, we just elected the wrong person. So we elected someone who was not even qualified. We elected someone who graduated from Columbia University, then graduated from Harvard. Oh, I think you could consider President Hussein Obama a smart man. I mean, you don't graduate from Columbia, you don't graduate from Harvard unless you're smart. But he had no political experience. Spent a few years as a United States Senator from Illinois. Most of that time he spent running for president. So he was not qualified. So the truth is, why did we elect him? Well, why did we elect someone who was not qualified, who clearly was not qualified, who had no experience? We would do that for nothing else. We would not go to a doctor if he has no experience, or maybe he's not even a doctor. He just got the white robe. Well, why would we do that? Why would we elect someone where it's clearly he's a smart man, but has no political experience? Why would we do that? Because we didn't elect the man. We voted for the color. The honest truth is, he won because he's black. That's just the way it is. That's just the truth. That's just the way it went. Was not qualified. In fact, when he was running in 2008, his wife made a statement that would automatically disqualify you. But of course, because we have a super liberal media, they hushed it up. And then that's why a lot of places that we go, people hush it up. Well, we do lots and lots of interviews. Some of them don't even get printed. Y'all's good old paper, Southeast Missourian. Oh, they wanted to do big story, big story, big story. We landed here in St. Louis on Thursday, drove down here real quick. They showed up and did a long interview. Going to come out on Friday. Going to come out during the week. Going to come out on Sunday. We want to promote this. We want people to come out. You know what? They didn't print nothing. Because people got to them. This story that Wayne was telling you, he didn't tell you the whole story. People went around there in Michigan, we couldn't even rent a room. In other words, usually when we do a rally, we must do it outside. Basically every single time. Because the authorities and the police go around talking to the hotels, convincing them not to rent to us. We tried to rent a room from the Drury's. They wouldn't rent us a room. We rented a room at the university here. They canceled us. People want to silence the truth. President Obama's wife said during a campaign as he was running for president in 2008, this should be enough to get you run out of town on a rail. You're a real American. His wife said, this is the first time. He said this was the first time in her life or in her adult life she was proud of America. And how do you say that? And your husband gets elected president of the United States of America. I mean, if you're not proud to be an American, how can you be the president of America? I mean, if you hate a Big Mac, if you hate McDonald's, I mean, how can you run McDonald's? I mean, how can you be president of the United States, your husband, and you make a statement on the campaign trail? This is the first time in my adult life I am proud to be an American. That is made by someone who is very anti-American, someone who is very stupid, and someone who has never been anyplace else. As I said, I spent 30 years outside of America. I've been in every European country. I've been in Africa 4 times. I've been in Austria, been in Australia. But there's no country in the world greater than America. Now, how can you, as the president's wife, or the president-to-be's wife, or want to be wife, want to be president, make a statement like, this is the first time in my adult life I am proud of America. And of course got out, but of course got hushed up. President Obama's record. This is why we must pray, we must act, stand up America now. We are doing everything that we possibly can to make sure he does not get reelected. I mean, we are doing everything we possibly can. And this is not a joke, as we will see here later. The nation probably will not survive 4 more years. Here is President Obama's record as of right now. At the date of his inauguration and today. At that date, there were 12 million unemployed. Now there is 14 million unemployed. In other words, according to his record, he should not be running for president again. He should be running in hiding. He should put his head in the sand. He should come on national television and repent for doing a super poor job. The unemployment rate was 7.8. Now it is 9.1. Gas was $1.85. Now it's $3.43. We were, and we'll get to this later, we were $10.6 trillion in debt. Now with President Obama, we are 14.9 trillion. Do you realize that we have been overspending since 1969? We cannot do that. Do you know that since President Obama has been president, he has added $4.1 trillion to the debt? He has accumulated more debt than all the presidents from George Washington to George W. Bush put together. Our misery index, which is the combined figures of inflation and unemployment put together, was 7.8. Now it's 12.9. The people receiving food stamps were 32 million at the time that he swore in. Now it's 45 million. 45 million people receive food stamps. 45 million people. What do we have? 350 million in the nation? 45 million and 350 million, what is that? 12%, 13, 14%? Huh?
1 every 7.
How can that be healthy? Home values. The value of your home went from $193,400 to $172,600. And this is really a disgrace. The U.S. global competitiveness. We went from number 1. President Obama was able. Well, when he became president, when he was sworn in, we were number 1 competitiveness. Number one in the world. We're now number 5. We're not even number 2. We're not even number 1.5. We fell down to number 5. Americans in poverty was 39 million, and now 46 million. This record is devastating. How bad is it? It's that bad. It is actually that bad. We are a nation on the brink of bankruptcy. In other words, we shall not survive unless we do something very drastic. We are about to face a huge recession, a huge inflation, unless something happens. We are $14.8 trillion in the hole very soon. We will not even be able to pay the interest on that loan. If the only reason that we are still afloat is because the dollar is still the world currency. Once we lose that status and our dollar is no longer worth anything, and we have to purchase items like oil in another currency, and we have to use a dollar that is worth nothing to buy that other currency so that we can buy oil, so that we can buy other commodities, at that time we are done. And if we do not straighten up our act, the countries around the world will lose confidence in the American government. They will lose confidence in the stability of the American dollar, and they will want to choose a different currency to become the world currency. If and when that happens, and it will definitely happen unless something changes very, very drastically. So what's the answer? The answer is very painful. It don't matter if it's Romney or some other kind of person. Don't let them tell you it's going to be okay. Don't let them tell you it's not going. We are way beyond creating a few more jobs. We are way beyond taxing the rich. Taxing the rich is simply not going to do it. We are $14.8 trillion in the hole. If we took all of the money that all of the millionaires and all of the billionaires in America had, we just took and confiscated all their money. We just walked around Cape Girardeau and we took all the money that the Drury's got, Limbaugh's, all the others. Took all their money all around the world, all the millionaires, all the billionaires, took everything in America, all their money. We'd have 1.1 trillion. That's all we had. And we're 14.9 trillion in the hole. That's how bad it is. So raising of taxes will not do any good. Creating a few more jobs, which we need to do, of course, will not do any good. The answer is going to be very, very, very painful. In other words, we are going to have to cut, and nobody wants to cut. As we all know, it's very difficult to give someone something and then later take it away from them. We cannot give our government more money, because our government does not know how to handle the money that they have right now. I have been, as I said, 30 years in the ministry, and I have counseled people on all different types of levels. And one of those levels is the level of finances. And most people's problem is not that they do not have enough money. Most people's problem is they do not know how to spend, save the money they have. Most people do not know how to handle money, and if you gave them more money, that actually would not help them. They would just simply be more in debt. They would just simply spend more money. So our government giving them more money will not help. What we have to do is we have to stand up, we have to speak out, they have to cut. We have to cut spending in a very, very drastic way. And it will have to be cut to where it's very painful. I'll get to some of the spending areas here. One of the things that we have to do is that we have to try to increase the ability of our businesses to grow and hire more people. I know right now that the big movement there is Occupy Wall Street. That is absolutely ridiculous. The people there, it's mainly just a handout movement. Give me something, pay for my stuff, tax the rich, tax the businesses. But we don't realize the United States of America already has the highest corporate taxes in the whole world. Japan was number one, but they lost that title as they lowered their taxes. So actually taxing the rich, taxing the businesses will not do any good. We have to have a complete reform. We have to remember that the reducing of our deficit is not an option, it's an absolute necessity. Here are the areas. The areas of spending. The Treasury Department and the interest on the debt is $425 billion. Health and Human Services is $850 billion. As we see there, we cannot put into effect Obama's health care. As good as it may sound. And even though everyone deserves it, everyone deserves hospitalization, everyone deserves health care, everyone deserves maybe lots of things. But it's the difference between what you deserve and what you can afford. It's like your kids. I mean, everybody wants Nike. But I mean, maybe you can only afford Walmart. Then that's just what you get. That's what you get, and that's what you have to be happy with. The Department of Defense is $725 billion. That'd be tough for America. But we have to cut. Actually, we have to cut the military. That's a very, very unpopular thing in America right now. But what we have to look around. So we have to run the government like it's a business. We have to look around and say, do we really need that? I mean, do we really have to be involved in this country, and this country, and this country, and this country? How much military do we actually need? How great of a threat are these other countries? How great of a threat is our national security? Well, what do we have to do? The illegal alien situation in our country is costing us $450 billion a year. 20 million illegal aliens in America. I think they should all be, I don't understand what the discussion is. I think we have forgotten the word illegal. If you're illegal, that means you're illegal. That's just what. I mean, the whole word explains the action. You are illegal. In other words, if someone robs a bank, or they have done an illegal action, even if they have an excuse for that. Well, I needed some money. I didn't see the stop sign. I didn't see that person crossing the street. That's why I ran over him. It doesn't make any difference. You still did something against the law. It was illegal. So you get a ticket. Or you get put in jail. I believe what we have to do is that we have to actually, these people are illegal. That makes them criminals. They have to be in a nice, polite way, rounded up and removed from the country. It would not be the first time. It has not been done a lot, but I believe that it has been done by one or two of our presidents. They have ordered that to be done, and that has been done. So as you see, that there are actions that are going to have to be taken by our United States government that our government are simply not going to do. Because these are very difficult actions. These are actions that are very unpopular. They are not going to do it. They would rather just let us simply go down the tube than they would actually stand up and address these issues. And that is why we have to do it. But that is why Stand Up America. That is why we put our information out. That is why we travel around the country. That is why we do the things that we do, because we want to encourage Americans to stand up. Because our nation is only a few short years away from a total breakdown, a total disaster, unless we stand up, unless we do something.